Good evening, friends, and welcome to Dark Historian. Tonight, I've brought you a quiet, calming tale, a gentle bedtime sleep story for wakeful minds and wandering hearts. This video is part of the Boring History for Sleep stories series made to help you unwind and fall asleep fast. In this episode, I'll share soothing sleep stories that invite your thoughts to slow down and your body to let go. If your mind is still busy, or if peace feels far away, you've found the right place. So gently close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let these sleep-inducing chronicles of history carry you into rest. Your silent night begins now, with Dark Historian. RSD Story 1. A rope bridge and a bundle. Inca messengers on the road. The first step from the tambu waking as a chasquis. Good morning, traveler. The sun has not yet crested the mountains, but the sky is already a soft blue-gray, like woven wool left out in the dew. You lie on your side atop a thin mat of tightly packed itchy grass, wrapped in a woolen cloak that still smells faintly of smoke and lanolin. All around you, the stone walls of the tambu rest stop on the Inca road glow with the faintest warmth, the kind of heat held by stone after a day of sunlight and a long, cold night. There is no rooster here, no bell to sound your waking hour. But the air has shifted. It tells you it's time. You are a chasquis, one of the empire's runners, and today you carry the road. The stone and the silence you rise slowly. There's no haste, only habit. Your knees creak a little as you bend them, as they always do on mornings after long runs. The air bites at your cheeks. It's thinner here, nearly 12,000 feet above the sea, where the clouds sometimes sit below your doorway. The tambu is small stone. Walls, a thatched roof, and a floor swept free of dust each night before sleep. There is no door, only a woven curtain of alpaca wool dyed in dark red and yellow, the colors of the empire. You push it aside gently, and the wind greets your face like an old friend. Cold, dry, clean. Outside, the mountains stretch like sleeping gods, their peaks dusted with snow, their feet wrapped in mist. Somewhere below, unseen but always near, the great capac on the Inca road winds onward through forest, ridge, and stone. You step out and breathe. Rituals without words. Your morning begins without speaking. Not from shyness, but from reverence. You kneel beside a small stone shrine, smooth slab, half buried, marked only with a single carved spiral. It's not grand. It's not meant to be. It's a walker, a sacred place, one of many that dot the empire's breath. Every chasquis knows to greet it. You touch your forehead to the stone. You say nothing, but you feel the prayer pass from you like mist. May the path hold steady beneath my feet. May the wind not steal my breath. May I carry the word without fail. You place 3 coca leaves in shud, perfect upon the stone, their veins still green. Then you rise, preparing the body, honoring the load. You return to the tambu. Inside, a small fire burns low in a corner hearth. Your partner, the chasquis you're replacing, sleeps soundly still, wrapped in a thick cloak. He arrived late last night, after a run from a post nearly a day's journey east. You let him rest. Beside your mat lies your gear, simple, minimal, trusted. A woven chuspa, the coca bag, tied at the waist. A kepi, the messenger bundle wrapped in dark cloth. A putotu, the conch shell horn, slung over your shoulder. The kepi is sacred. You do not know its contents. You are not meant to. Inside may be knots of quipu, encoded chords that speak for accountants and generals, or tokens, or messages of war or peace. Your job is not to interpret, only to carry. You check its chords, tight, balanced, familiar. You chew a single coca leaf, rolling it gently in your cheek, and feel its warmth begin to wake your blood. Then you wrap the kepi across your chest and shoulder, adjust your sandals, and step toward the road. The road that holds the empire the Capac own is not just a trail. It is a spine. Over 24,000 miles of stone-paved paths thread the empire. Together from the highlands of Cusco to the deserts of the coast, from the jungle's edge to the far reaches of what will one day be Ecuador, Bolivia, Chile. You walk it today, not for fame nor for conquest, but for rhythm. The road is narrow, but it is even. Stones placed by hands you will never meet, leveled by workers whose names are not spoken aloud. It curves gently downward first, then ascends across a steep ridge. You know this stretch well. You've run it dozens of times. Your feet fall into a rhythm, heel, toe, heel, toe. The sound is soft leather, soles, brushing stone. The wind moves past your ears. You breathe evenly. The sky grows brighter. The weight of a bundle, the weightlessness of motion after the first hour, your legs have warmed. The cold no longer bites. The air, though thin, feels like silk now, smooth and dry. Your breath has learnt to work in this place. The kepi does not weigh much, maybe a pound or two, but it is never light. Not because of its mass, but because of its meaning. You are not carrying a thing. You are carrying intention. Every village, every army post, every outpost waits for messages like this. Nothing in the empire moves without its runners. No command is spoken unless a chasquis has flown with it first. No news is real until a tired figure arrives, places a bundle down, and says, from the sapper Inca's hand, I bring this dot, and so you run. Not fast, not like a sprint, but steady, like water on stone, like wind through a canyon. You know how far until the next tambu. 6 leagues, maybe 7. You won't need to stop. Not today. You pass a carved postanold milestone marked with concentric circles and 2 dots. It means you've crossed into another province. The trail narrows, the clouds clear. Far below, a condor glides on a ribbon of wind. Crossing the hanging bridge ahead, the canyon dot you knew it would come. You've crossed it before. Here the road ends abruptly at a cliff's edge, and what connects it to the path beyond is not stone but rope. A Quechua chaka, a hand-woven suspension. Bridge made from grass and vines, stretched across a gorge 200 feet wide. You do not pause to question it. The bridge has been repaired recently, the ropes still pale and tight. You step carefully onto its planks. They creak under your weight. The wind rises beneath you, cool and loud. You feel it rush up through the gaps in the woven floor, whipping at your cloak. You focus forward, one step at a time. Your balance is true. The kepi rests against your back. It does not sway. Your arms stretch slightly for steadiness. Your breath is even. Halfway across, you stop. You look down not in fear, but in awe. The river below is a ribbon of silver light, moving endlessly through the mountains. You feel small here, but not lost. You begin walking again. Andean stillness, human motion. When you reach the far side, you rest. Not long, just enough to adjust your sandals, drink from your gourd, and look up. The mountains here are steeper. The air carries the scent of dry moss and clay. A few llamas graze near a stone corral. They lift their heads, then return to chewing. They've seen you before. You are no stranger. You begin to run again, and here now, your body remembers its rhythm fully. Your legs move without thought. Your heart is calm. Your eyes scan the path ahead, looking for loose stones, low branches, broken edges. But your mind is clear. You are motion, not effort. This is the closest thing your people have to flying. And the journey continues. Through cloud and quipu the path, beneath the canopy asterisk. The stone bench is still warm when you sit. The last chasquis has vanished into the path behind you, heading back toward the tambu where he'll sleep until moonrise. The bundle now rests in your lap, the kepi, bound in dark cloth, tied with a cord you will not untie. Its weight is unchanged but different. You press your palm to it once, gently, not to open, not to guess, just to feel. It is your turn now. You rise, you stretch one arm behind your back, then the other. You bounce your feet slightly in your sandals. You chew a fresh wad of coca leaf. The road ahead is longer than most through cloud forest, through shadow. But you know it, and it knows you. The start of a new breath. You are alone. The stone trail winds forward between mossy walls, shaded now beneath thick overhanging trees. The mountain ridges behind you fall away into silence. In this zone of the high jungle, birds cry out with long, rising whistles, and vines sway gently with no wind at all. The canopy above filters the light into greenish patterns, dappling the stones. You walk first, not run. Not yet. You feel the balance of the bundle across your shoulders. Shift your pace to center it, and listen to the forest. The path must be watched differently here, not for steep drops or bridges, but for fallen logs, slick moss, stones dislodged by deer or rain. This stretch of the Capac Own is older, worn, familiar in a way that feels almost living. You adjust your footing. Then you begin to run. The cloud forest whispers si Vosges always liked this part of the road. It smells of sweet rot-wet leaves, lichen, mud, soaked in generations of rain. And yet there's clarity to it. Not like the dry highlands or the burning coast. Here, things are alive. Everything breathes. The moss along the stone walls glows with moisture. Red bromeliads bloom above you. Far off, the screech of a echoes once, then fades. Your feet slap the ground lightly, rhythmically, the sandals damp but secure. You pass a narrow stream, just a thread of silver water that slips across the path. You step over it in a practiced motion. You do not stop. Your body has entered its rhythm now. You are not thinking. You are not efforting. You are simply moving. A thought from the bundle. You don't know what the kepi carries, but you feel its presence in your steps. Sometimes it is a light burden. Sometimes it feels like a heavy thought clutched to the chest. It changes nothing physically, but it changes everything emotionally. This one feels quiet, not urgent, not panicked. It feels ceremonial. You've carried messages of war before. Those were hot, tense. This one is not. Perhaps it is news of a birth, or an offering to a distant Caracas. Perhaps just a cord of quipu, carefully knotted to tally maize stores from the coast, headed back to Cusco. You will never know, and that is good. The messenger does not own the message. The people of the Tresem way through the run. You pass a small Tambo de Selva forest way station. It is simpler than the one before. No guard, no storage, just a shaded lean-to of woven branches and a fire ring built in a ring of smoothed pebbles. An old woman sits there, feeding the fire with small sticks. She is not a chasquis. She is something else, a watcher, a record keeper perhaps, or a caretaker of this stretch of road. You nod to her. She nods back. She does not speak. She holds out a gourd of water. You pause, not for long, just enough to kneel, to drink, to press your fingers to your forehead in thanks. Then you run again. Footprints and memory, the trail ahead has darkened. Clouds have rolled in above the trees, casting soft shadows over everything. You pass beneath thick vines and over a patch of slippery lichen. Your feet never falter. You know these stones. Along the way, you see faint prints from another runner who came this way before. You note the shape, the heel mark, light, small, a woman's, perhaps. Maybe yesterday's. You imagine her. The way she runs, the way she breathes. You pass a carved face in the stone wallow eroded by moss, its eyes now hollow, its nose barely present. Some ancestor, long forgotten. You touch the wall briefly with your fingers. May your message have been swift. Then you keep going. The sudden rain, it happens suddenly. The cloud opens not into a storm, but a gentle wash of rain, steady and cool, pattering over the leaves, over your shoulders, soaking into the kepi's outer cloth. You do not stop. You have a poncho, rolled beneath your sash, but you do not need it. You are already wet. The water cools your skin, mists your eyelashes, darkens the path. The sandals grip the wet stone well. You adjust your pace. You shift your center lower, knees looser, more spring in the ankle. This is part of the journey. The rain is not your enemy. It is a witness. You run through it like breath, the voice of the forest after the rain. Everything smells sharper. The earth beneath the trees gives off a deep, rich musk. Ferns lean heavy with droplets. Insects chirp in louder tones. Birds rise from branches and scatter overhead, their wings shaking water from the leaves. The forest speaks in layers. A whisper of leaves overhead. A buzz of movement beneath the ferns. A single hoot from far away, human or bird, you cannot tell. You do not answer. You do not question. You run. The small collapse your foot catches on a loose stone, not hard, just enough to jar your step. You stumble slightly, your balance shifting. You lean sideways. Your palm hits the wet wall to catch yourself. You freeze, breathe. You're fine. You stand upright. Adjust the kepi. Feel your ankle. No pain. Just surprise. You smile to yourself, slightly embarrassed, though no one saw you. Even the best runners fall sometimes. But the bundle did not drop. The rhythm did not break. You are whole. You begin again, slower for a moment, listening to your body, then faster, then full. The arrival of evening light. The trees begin to thin. You feel it before you see it, the change in sound. The hush of deep forest opens into the quiet of open space. The wind returns. The scent of dry grass replaces the smell of moss. You reach the clearing just as the sky softens into golden haze. Ahead lies the next tambu, tucked beneath a cliff. Ledge, its roof heavy with branches and thatch. Smoke rises gently from its hearth. A runner sits outside, waiting. He is young. This will be his leg. You slow to a walk, your breath steady, your face damp with sweat, your feet tired but firm. You approach him and lift the bundle from your back. You place it in his hands with care. He bows. You bow. And without a word, he turns and runs. Twilight on the stones, the final leg of the message asterisk. The light is golden and low when the third runner lifts the kepi bundle from the waiting boy's outstretched arms. He feels its weight not heavy, but meaningful. He balances it across his back with the care of someone who's done this for many years, someone who no longer counts miles, only messages. The cord slips easily across his chest, the cloth nestling into the shape of his shoulder like it belongs there. The boy bows. The older man nods. No words pass between them. The younger runner has done his part. Now the elder carries it forward, not far, but far enough. An old body on a known road, this runner does not move with the spring of youth. His legs are thick with years, knees wrapped in wool, ankles darkened with lines of dried salt from long forgotten. Runs, but his steps are steady. The sun is beginning to fall behind the hills to the west. The shadow of a mountain creeps slowly across the path. He walks first, as always, never rushing the first moments. He listens to the path, to the wind brushing through dry reeds. Then, with practiced motion, he begins to run. His gait is not fast, but it is sure. He has crossed these stones in rain, fog, heat, and snow. He knows which ones are loose. He knows where the hawks cry. He knows where the sun falls at dusk. He is not the fastest, but he does not fall. The sound of memory. Beneath sandals, every chasquis remembers their first run. He does too. He was 12. His hands shook. His lungs burned in the cold air. The kepi was heavier than not in weight, but in expectation. Now, decades later, it feels different. Not lighter, not lesser, just clearer. The sandals slap gently against the worn stones. The air is warmer, now thicker. He has descended from the cloud forest into valleys lined with fields. Maize waves in the wind. A llama bleats softly in the distance. The road widens slightly here. Farmers and herders use it in the mornings, though it's empty now. Most are indoors, preparing fires for evening meals. But the road never sleeps. Not for chasquis, the whisper of quipu he wonders. Not for the first time what the message might be. Is it a tally of stored maize? An imperial decree from Cusco? An invitation to a ritual feast? Or simply cord after cord of tightly knotted quipu, their strings stiff with information, braided thought? He does not look. That is not his role, but he feels the message. Not in words, but in presence. The kepi rests on his back like a heartbeat. It reminds him of others he's carried. The heavy one with the black thread, sent on the day a general fell in the mountains. The one wrapped in gold-dyed cloth, delivered to a temple so quiet even the birds stopped singing. Each one a moment, each one a breath of the empire. The final descent, he reaches the edge of the highlands, just as the sky turns from gold to blue. Before him lies a steep descent into the administrative villagean, Aklawasi, home of chosen women, weavers, and scribes. Below that, a plaza, and beyond it, a receiving house where the next message will begin. He pauses at the ridge. The wind rises to greet him. From here, the world softens. Shadows lengthen. Smoke rises from chimneys like grey thread weaving into the dusk. A woman calls to her children. Dogs bark once, then settle. He adjusts the bundle one last time. He places one foot forward, and he runs, entering the plaza by the time he reaches the base of the trail. Night has arrived. Torches flicker on the plaza walls. A sentry leans on a spear, eyes half-lidded from stillness. He sees the runner and stands tall. The elder raises his hand. The sign is known. A chasquis arriving with message. The guard nods. He enters. Stone underfoot. Cool air brushing against damp skin. He walks with purpose, not haste. The buildings rise around him like carved guardians. In one doorway, a scribe lights a candle. In another, a priestess arranges maize, cakes on a small altar, and then he sees it. The receiving house, the end of the road, it is not large. Just a single stone structure with a wide hearth, a reed mat, and a man waiting inside, a record keeper with calm eyes and a bowl of tea at his side. The chasquis. Bows. The official stands. The bundle is placed gently on the mat. The cords are inspected. The seal made of woven thread and a clay stamp is unbroken. The message has arrived. The official nods. He speaks softly. You've done well. The chasquis bows again, his hands pressed to his chest. Then to the stone floor. He does not wait for thanks. He does not ask for reward. He simply sits on the edge of the mat and removes his sandals. The final breath of the deity is served warm, herbal, simple. The fire burns low. Outside the world, quiet. Inside, the bundle is opened carefully, reverently. The cords are read, the knowledge is passed on, and the chasquis, now still, watches the fire and closes his eyes. Not to sleep, not yet, just to feel the stillness, to feel the road beneath him, even now, to know that tomorrow another runner will rise. And so the empire breathes, one step, one message, one bundle at a time. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place. And now, let's drift into a new corner of forgotten history. Story 2, Feathers and Smoke, the everyday chores of a Maori canoe maker, where the trees remember good morning. Traveler, the mist still clings to the edges of the bush, its thick hair silver in the hollows, turning the tree trunks into shadows and the grass into a soft, wet blanket. The air smells of wet flax, earth, and wood smoke carried on a breeze that barely exists. You sit up slowly. The woven mat beneath your shoulder crackles faintly as you shift. It was dry when you lay down. Now the morning dew has found it. That's all right. Everything is a little wet in the bush at this hour. You are a Tohunga Tere Waka, a canoe maker, not a carver of war clubs, not a fisherman. Your skill is with the great trees. You do not take lightly. You ask before you cut. You speak to the grain of the wood and learn from the bark. And today, like many days, your work begins not with tools, but with stillness. The wakeful trees you rise without speaking. Your body moves through the old routine. First, you wash your face with cold water drawn from a stream you trust. Your hands dip gently. The touch wakes you better than speech ever could. Birds are already calling tea and kuramako, their throats full of bell sounds. A kera beat slowly past overhead, heavier than it sounds, disappearing into the canopy like smoke curling upward. You pick up your small kita bundle of flax string, a jar of shark oil wrapped in cloth, your stone adze, and a small bunch of feathers bound with a cord. The feathers are not for luck, they are for the trees, a sign, a request, a memory. The tree you visit today has not yet been cut. You've spoken to it before. Today, you listen. Into the bush you follow a narrow trail beneath the great Trisco Hikatia. Rimu and Totara, their roots thick as calves, their trunks tall as stories. The air is dim here, though the sun has already risen. Light filters in patches through the canopy, and every step leaves a print in soft, moss-covered ground that adds hangs against your hip. Its stone is green-grey, smoothed over many years, tied tightly to its curved wooden handle. You check it with your thumb, then let it rest. You are not here to strike yet. The clearing opens around a single Totara old, upright, its bark deeply furrowed. You have visited it many times. You kneel, press your palm to the bark, wait. Then you speak. Not aloud, not in chant, just a whisper the tree already knows. Are you ready? Will you come with us? There is no reply. Not exactly, but the breeze shifts, the birds quiet, and your shoulders know the answer. Yes, the tapu and the tools before any cut is made. You prepare the ritual. You unroll your cloth and lay the feathers at the base of the trunk. Some are from Coraria, the falcon, others from Kaka, the forest parrot. Each one has flown differently, seen different heights. You place them with respect. You dip your fingers in the oil pressed from shark liver weeks ago, filtered through flax, kept sealed from light. You wipe a little across the blade of your adze. The scent is strong, salty. It cuts through the green of the morning. You lift the adze. You mark the tree, just a notch. One shallow cut in the bark. The tree does not bleed, but it knows. The line means, this is coming. Be ready. You will not cut it today. You never do it alone. You will return with others when the moon is right. But today, the tree is no longer waiting. It is preparing. You clean the blade again and rise. Back at the shed, the workshop is open too. The air, just a sloping roof of bark and vine, lashed 2 poles, with walls on only 2 sides. The wind flows through. Wood shavings carpet the floor like dry leaves. Here lies the log you began last season, a fallen tree, already stripped and shaped into a hull. Its belly is smooth, hollowed carefully with flame and stone. It rests on cradle logs, tilted slightly. You run your hand along the curve of the hull, smooth, cool. The grain speaks. You nod. Today's task is not cutting, it is smoothing. The rhythms of work. You take your smoother a stone, rubbed flat from use, and begin working the inside of the hull. Slow strokes, back and forth. You press lightly, evenly. You hum, just a low vibration in the chest. Around you, the air smells of oil, dust, and dried bark. Wood curls up from the surface in ribbons, thin as flax. You wipe them away gently. Time does not pass here in hours. It passes in strokes, in the shift of the light, in the growing pile of shavings. Your shoulders ache after a while. You stop to chew on rorikubakud for pain. You spit the bitter fibers into a jar. Then back to work. You smooth, you listen. Sometimes the wood pushes back, other times it welcomes the tool. A visitor comes. You hear footsteps on the path before you see him. It is Wairimu, a boy not yet old enough to carve, but eager to learn. He brings food wrapped in leaves, smoked eel, soft kamara, and a gourd of cool water. You nod as he approaches. He sits beside the canoe without speaking. You eat together in silence. That is the custom. Afterward, he hands you a small, shell-spiraled white with a whole board near the tip. You smile, a gift for the prow. Not yet, but soon. You set it carefully on the mat beside your tools. The boy leaves without a word, the scent of smoke in the afternoon. You walk down to the fire pit by the river. A long trench smokes there, its coals banked under stones. Beside it, flax bundles hang from a rack, drying for rope. You gather some for the lashings. The smoke is sweet manuka mostly. It clings to your clothes, your arms, your hair. You remember the canoes your father made, how the prow was carved last, after all else. How the first paddle was blessed. How you once dreamed of being a fisherman, not a carver, but the trees chose you. You were the one who listened. You were the one who waited, evening at the hole before sunset. You return to the hole. The light is lower now, golden. The wood glows faintly. You inspect the smoothing. Run your fingers along the grain. It is ready tomorrow. You will begin shaping the prow tonight. You will light a small fire and sit nearby, not to guard it, but to honor it. You arrange 3 stones. You lay kindling. You light the flame. And as the fire crackles and the stars begin to appear one by one, you sit cross-legged and whisper again, "Thank you, tree. You are becoming." Shaping the front of the wind, the morning comes again, not suddenly, but like mist, soft, creeping. It glows through the trees, touches the woven thatch of your shelter, and settles on your skin like breath. You are already awake, not because of noise, not from worry, simply because your body knew it was time. You kneel by the fire's ashes, rake them gently with a stick. Still warm, that is good. The night was kind. You feed in fresh bark, coax it to life with slow breath, and soon the flame returns. A new day, a new task, marking the prow. The hull is ready. It lies under its lean-to cover like a sleeping bird, smooth and dark, curved perfectly from stern to shoulder. Only the prow remains untouched, sits face blunt, waiting. You gather your tools, a charcoal, stick to draw the shape. Your sharpest stone adds, honed on river stone, 2 carved feathers tied together by flax cord, and a small jar of red ochre mixed with shark oil. The charcoal marks come first, not lines, curves, spirals, not decoration, but direction. The prow must break waves like a hand parting flax. It must glide, not cut. You draw slowly. Each mark sings something the wood already knows. A visit from the elder before the first cut. You pause. You hear the Kamachua, the village elder. His walk is slow. He carries a staff carved with ancestor marks. You meet him at the path's edge. Bow your head. He doesn't speak at first, just looks at the hull, walks its length, touches the grain, then he nods. You remembered the space. Beneath the ribs, you nod. You let the stern breathe. You nod again. He looks at the prow, frowns gently. Too sharp here, you erase a line. Draw again, curving softer. This time he smiles. Then he sits, not to watch, just to be present. You lift the adze egg and begin. The first stroke, the sound is familiar. A hollow thunk, followed by the rasp of tool against grain. The wood accepts the cut, neither resisting nor crumbling. The adze is angled perfectly. You guide it by feel more than thought. The elder hums a chunan, old canoe chant, sung not in celebration but in rhythm. His voice is low, gravelly, but true. You match your cuts to his tempo. Strike, breathe, shape, breathe again. Feathers and flaxet midday. You stop, not from fatigue, but tradition. It is time to wrap the prow in its first bendinga braid of flax and feather that tells the ancestors the form is beginning. You unwind your cord. The feathers are old, collected seasons ago. Taka, rare and blue. Titi, sharp and slick. You wrap them around the prow, tie them with softened flax, and murmur the words that are not prayer, but memory. This canoe begins with breath, not blade. This prow sees before it sails. This lash holds more than wood. You press your forehead against the curve of the hull. You close your eyes. The elder has left without a sound. The lashing, table after, resting in the afternoon sun. You sit at the binding table. This is where flax becomes rope, Each strip must be boiled, dried, scraped, softened with stone, and twisted into strands. Your hands do this almost without thought. Twist, pull, roll. The fibers hum between your palms. The rope must be strong enough to bind ribs to hull. It must not slip. It must not rot. You dip each strand in oil and hang it over a rack to dry. Nearby, the boy Wairamu sits watching again. You hand him a strand. He tries to twist, fails, tries again. You say nothing. His hands are learning, carving the spirit curved by twilight. You return to the prow. You take your smaller chisel, now the one carved from Ponamu greenstone. It is meant for details. You etch the spiral called koru just, where the prow curves upward. It's not for decoration. It's a reminder of unfolding, of breath, of beginning again. The spiral mirrors the fern frond before it opens as you carve. The fire beside you crackles. The rope hangs dry on its rack. The boy has gone. The night comes. Slowly, sleeping beside the wood you lay, your mat beside the canoe. You do not need to guard it. You simply want to be near. You light a small taper of twisted flax and place it near the prow. Its smoke rises in slow curls. The feathers tied to the hull move slightly in the air. Above the stars shimmer in the ink-black sky. The Southern Cross leans low over the bushline. And your final thought is not of sailing, not yet only of shaping, only of tending, only of carrying forward what came before. The canoe that waits to breathe asterisk the morning is warm. There's no mist this time, just the thick scent of damp leaves and sunlit bark. You sit up slowly, listening. The walker lies nearby, untouched through the night. You can feel it, even with your eyes closed, the way a sleeping dog fills the room with its presence. This morning will be quiet, but not still. It is the day of final shaping, the carving of the stern you. Begin at the back of the vessel. The stern has been left blank until now, not from neglect, but respect. The prow is the path. The stern is the memory. Your stone chisel is sharp. It glides across the grain, lifting tiny curls of wood that flutter to the ground. The design is already inside you. It is not elaborate, just a series of deep notches, long for short, marking your Eevee's lineage. Beneath that, a single curved line that represents AWA, the river. The stern must always know where it came from. You pause often, wiping the wood dust from your forearms, brushing it into a pile you'll later scatter beneath the trees. Nothing is wasted. Oiling the grain by midday, the carving is done. You heat a shallow bowl of oil over a small fire shark, fat blended with ground bark and herbs. It smells of salt and earth and smoke. You dip a cloth in it, squeeze once, and press it to the prow. The wood drinks it in slowly. The dull surface begins to shine, first like stone, then like glass. You move slowly, with both hands, in wide circular strokes. You speak no words. The oil is the blessing. You work from prow to stern, outside to inside. You press the cloth into every joint and notch. By the time you finish, your fingers are stained. Your shoulders ache, and the canoe gleams in the slanting light. It is ready, adorning. The vesseling, the afternoon Wairamu returns. He carries a bundle tied with flax, wrapped in mats. Inside, ornaments carved by the village women, shells from the coast, red feathers, a single polished tooth from a mango shark. You lay them out like stars. At the prow, you place the tooth at the stern. The feathers, along the edges, the shells threaded, together and knotted with flax to click softly in the wind. You tie the kuru spiral to the bowline dot, not for decoration, for story. The elder returns the komochua, walks into the clearing near evening. He says little, just sits beside the canoe and places one hand on the stern dot together. You sit. A third figure arrives, the tohunga, the ritual elder. He carries a dried branch of karamu, stripped bare, a symbol of beginning and ending. He walks once around the canoe, then once more in silence. He lays the branch across the middle beam. Then he speaks. Only one sentence. This waka remembers those who carved it. He takes the branch and leaves. The night before water you do not sleep deeply. You lie on your mat and listen to the wind moving through the tall trees. Somewhere nearby, a ruru owl calls once, then goes quiet. The fire crackles. The feathers on the prow rustle faintly. Tomorrow, the waka will be moved to the river, but tonight it rests. You walk once around it with a taper in hand. The oil has soaked in fully. The wood looks darker now, older, not worn but awakened. You kneel, press your fingers to the grain. You whisper, you are ready. You are always ready. The morning of carrying the people come with the sun. 10 men, 2 boys, a woman who sings. They carry woven mats, wooden poles, ropes of twisted flax. The waka does not fight the weight. It lifts smoothly from its resting place. Carried shoulder, dash high. No shouting, no ceremony. Just song. The path to the river is soft mud, packed with leaves. Roots knotted like old fingers. The birds call out. The water waits dot at the riverbank. They set it down. No one moves for a while. The current laps gently. You touch the prow, then nod, and the waka slides. Forward, a vessel without a name. Some vessels are named. This one is not. Not because it is forgotten, but because it is still becoming. Its name will come later, after rain, after sun, after journeys made and stories whispered into its ribs. For now, it floats. The feather at the stern lifts slightly in the breeze. The shells click. The memory holds, and you turn back toward the bush dot. There is more work. There are more trees. There are more mornings. But this one will stay. A vessel carved slowly, with smoke, with oil, with feathers, and silence. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place, and now let's drift into a new corner of forgotten history. Story 3. Stones and Secrets, an Inu Woman's Day in Old Hokkaido *, the morning. Smoke and the voice of bark *, the coals have not gone out. They glow softly beneath ash, exhaling the faintest threads of smoke. You open your eyes in the half-dark of your thatched house and do not move for a long time. There is no bell, no bird call, no husband's voice. Just the smell of last night's fire and the whisper of the wind slipping between the walls. You are old, but not tired. You are alone, but not lonely. The world is still wrapped in fog, and so are you. You rise slowly, gathering your bark robe closer to your shoulders. It is soft with years of youth, woven from elm bark, tanned and smoked, supple from the oils of your skin. Your legs feel stiff today. It rained last night, and your bones know it. You stretch, you listen, you breathe, then you speak, softly, into the space above the hearth. Kami Senoka, An. A god is watching, and so begins the day. The fire that waits there is no need to strike a new flame. You rake the ashes with a stick carved years ago, gently coaxing breath back into the heart of the fire. A few dry branches birch, curled at the ends are laid on top. They catch quickly. The flames are modest, careful. You do not need much. The kettle is already filled, as it always is. Rainwater from yesterday. You hang it above the flame. It will boil when it's ready. You sit cross-legged on a mat woven from grass and reed, your back warmed by the fire. The house smells of smoke, fur, bark, and damp wool. Your fingers brush over the tatters in your sleeve. You trace the stitched edge. You do not mend it today. You are not in a rush. Feathers at the door outside. The mist clings to the low ferns and tall cedar trunks. The forest is quiet, but the quiet is not silence, it's breathing. You step into your boots bare hide, softened with fat and stitched with sinew. A necklace of small shells swings softly as you stand. You touch it once to be sure it is there. At the door, you pause. A prayer stick stands beside the threshold. Its top is curled with wood shavings, spiraled pale. You place 2 feathers at its base, one white, one black, not to ask for anything, just to say, I am awake. Gathering the bitter root, the morning chore is not hunting, nor weaving, nor scraping. Skins it is a tusnomi, the ritual of gathering bitter roots for tea. Not every day, but today the tea is needed. Your chest is heavy, and the night brought dreams of old pain. You take your knife, a curved blade, its handle carved from deer bone, and place it in your belt. You carry a pouch of bark. You walk into the woods. The moss is wet beneath your feet. Tiny droplets hang from every pine needle like glass beads. You follow the slope down toward the river. No one told you where the roots grow. You remember, they grow where stones are round, where cedar needles fall thick, where the smell turns sharp and green. You kneel, pull gently at the leaf stalk, dig with fingers, slice the root free. It smells like bitterness, like medicine, like the earth's honest breath. You take 3, no more, the shrine of stones on your way home. You stop at the shrine. It is not large, just a pile of stones, each rubbed smooth by river and hand. At the center lies an antler, bleached by time. Around it, feathers, fur, old rope, a scrap of blue, cloth tied to a branch. You do not kneel, you sit. You do not pray, you remember. This shrine was built before your mother's mother. Each stone was placed without instruction, just felt. You touch one now, it is cold. You smile, you leave a bit of root. There. Let the gods taste it. Then you walk on, preparing the tea back at the hearth. The fire is steady. You slice the root into thin strips, lay them on a sheet of bark to dry slightly, then drop a few into the boiling water. The steam rises slowly. It carries the smell of memory. You pour the tea into a cup made from horn. You do not sip it yet. You breathe it in. Let it settle into your eyes, your skin, your chest. The bitterness is not the point. The point is, you are still here, the first. Words as the sun rises behind the clouds. The birds begin. A yacho calls from the cedar top. A woodpecker drums nearby. The air changes. You say your first real words of the day aloud. Itak and Ro, I will speak. You are Unu, you are woman. You are old, and you are not done. You sip the tea, slowly, bitter, sharp. It warms your throat, outside. The mist lifts from the trees. Inside, the fire crackles. The gods watch from the corners. The roots whisper their stories, and the day has only just begun. Bark, thread, and the shape of breath asterisk, the tea is finished. The horn cup sits warm beside you, half shadowed by the flickering hearth. Your hands are rested now. your knees a little less stiff. Outside, the air has lifted, the fog peeled back, like a shawl, leaving the trees bare to the sunlight. The wind carries a sharper edge. It rustles the bark roof above you. You sit for a moment, longer. You run your thumb along the edge of your robe. It is time to work. Not with urgency, not with haste, but with care. The loom that sings without thread, you unfold the loom from its mat. It is simple, 2 poles tied with sinew, small stones for tension, a few sticks rubbed smooth from decades of touch. The frame has no ornaments, but it remembers every hand that passed through it. You place it by the doorway, where the sun enters in slanted lines. The threads are barkatoos peeled in strips from elm, dried and softened with lye, then pounded smooth with rounded stones. You keep them bundled in dry reed, tied with old ribbon. You pull 3 strands, long golden, slightly cracked. They will do. You thread the loom in silence. Your fingers move without pause. You have done this longer than you have spoken. You do not need to think. The wood creaks, the thread hums, and you begin patterns without drawing. The first line is always plain, the second cross-woven, the third a loop of shadowed bark. You save for ceremonial robes. You do not copy. You remember every robe begins the same, but none end the same. You weave. From memory, from dreams, from wind. The pattern is not on paper. It is in your hands as you weave. The morning turns to late sun. The light warms your shoulder, your foot tucked under your robe. The sound of the forest changes too. Birds are fewer. A squirrel chatters once, then leaves. You pause only to drink. Water cool from a gourd, a nibble of dried trout, a bit of pickled fern. You do not eat to fill, only to continue, then back to thread. The shaving of the inno after the 4th row. You stop. You roll the thread loosely around a piece of bark and set it aside. Now it is time to shave. You pull the wood from your rafters. Length of willow, gathered and dried, kept sacred. It is pale, smooth, and still smells slightly sweet. You sit by the fire, lay down cloth, place a shell beside you, lift your knife. This is not for cutting, this is for blessing. You hold the willow in one hand, knife in the other, and begin shaving downward in long, thin curls. The wood peels softly, spinning as it falls. These shavings called inner will be tied to sticks and placed at the edge of the shrine. Each curl is a whisper. Each one says, I offer this in thanks. You shave slowly, let them fall onto the cloth. The offerings at the water with your bark basket tied around your hip. You walk toward the river. The sun is strong now. Shadows are shorter. The river is louder, melting snow from the mountains swelling its banks. You carry 3 curls of eno, a slice of dried trout, a handful of millet, and 2 feathers bound together by grass thread at the riverbank. You kneel, you do not ask, you do not beg, you offer. 1 curl is laid. Upon a stone, the millet is sprinkled on the water. The fishes, left near the reeds, the feathers are stuck upright in the sand. Pointing east, then you speak aloud, not for gods to hear, but for the river to remember. This day flows onward. I walk with it. You bow once, then rise, the memory of Fon, your way home. You pass the drying rack. A skin lies there, fox, taken weeks ago, scraped and smoked until the fur is soft again. You run your hand along it. You remember the animal's eyes. It did not cry, it simply looked. You thanked it with breath and burned tobacco. Now you will cut the fur into strips to line your next boots. But not today. Today you only remember the touch of ash back inside. You take a pinch of ash from the hearth. You rub it between your fingers. This is not ritual. It is habit. Ash makes the fingertips dry, sharp, better for tying knots. You tie the last curl of inao onto a stick. You carry it outside and place it beside the door. It bends in the breeze. You nod to it. It does not answer. It doesn't need to. The fire at midday's end. You rake the coals again. Add one log. Stir the kettle. You boil water and add small bitter leaves ones you gathered in spring and dried over the fire weeks ago. They smell of metal, root, and memory. You drink one cup. Slowly, your hands rest now. Your breath evens. The threads sit neatly coiled. The shavings are burned. The basket is empty. But the day is not done. Where the sky touches the fire asterisk, the sun has begun to lower behind the trees. Not quickly, not with heat, but slowly, like a heavy bowl being turned upside down, casting the sky from pale gold to soft blue to deepening violet. You sit by the fire and feel it change. The light no longer falls into the house, it leans away. Shadows stretch toward the east. You lay another small log onto the coals and watch it catch. The air grows cooler. You do not reach for a blanket yet. This is the hour when breath is longest. The slow stirring of supper. There is no feast tonight. Just a bit of dried salmon, soaked since midday, now gently steaming in a pot with wild greens and a root you do not name aloud. Its name is sacred. Its bitterness is memory. You stir the pot slowly with a spoon carved from bone. The fire pops once. You do not flinch. Your hands move with the same rhythm they always have stirred. Scrape, rest, stir again. You place a small leaf-wrapped bundle beside the pot. It's not for you, it's for the hearth gods. You won't burn it. Just leave it near the edge of the coals. It holds a shred of bark, a pinch of ash, a feather, and a few grains of millet. You don't know when that tradition started, only that it continues, the telling that has no listener as the stew simmers. You begin to speak. There is no one else here. That doesn't matter. You speak anyway, softly, without urgency. You tell the fire about your mother, about the first robe you ever wove, too tight under the arms. You tell the smoke about the time you fell into the cold river, and the bear that watched you crawl out. You do not explain the details. You let them float upward like steam. This is not storytelling. This is remembering aloud. The house listens. The roof beams listen. Your fingers listen. And so do the bones beneath the floor. The meal in 3 parts you eat slowly, cross-legged by the fire. First, the broth hot, bitter and calming. Then, the fish softened, now crumbling into flakes. Last, the greens slightly tough, earthy, still smelling of rain. You finish everything. You lick your fingers, wipe them on a cloth. You pour a second bowl not to drink. You carry it outside, the offering at dusk. The sun is almost gone now. The sky above the river glows faintly. You walk barefoot across the moss. It's soft, cold, forgiving. You stop beside the small prayer stick near the riverbank, the one with the spiral top, shavings curled like the wind. You set the bowl beside it. You whisper, Kamice Kor Waka. The god receives water. You step back. The wind picks up slightly. The trees shift. The water murmurs. You wait a moment. Then return. The final task. Binding the day inside. You gather your woven work from earlier. You roll the loom threads onto a stick, tie them with flax, tuck them into a bark pouch. You sweep the floor gently with a branch broom, push the ashes to one side, fold your blanket, tuck the fire tools beneath their mat. You light a taper from the fire and use it to relight the candle near the door. Its flame is small, but it's enough. You take a final sip of water. You stretch your arms. You exhale under the sky. You step outside once more. The stars are awake now, so many, so close. The Milky Way is clear running across. The sky like the stripe on a fox's back. You sit on a flat stone. You say nothing. You do not need to ask the stars anything. You only need to be here. You are not waiting. You are not remembering. You are simply present. The moss is cool beneath your legs. The air smells of pine, smoke, and sleep. You lean back and close your eyes. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place. And now, let's drift into a new corner of forgotten history. Story 4. Coconut smoke and sea paths. The canoe builders of old Micronesia. The wind remembers your name. Asterisk. The ocean speaks first, not in words, but in the hush and tumble of foam curling over sand. It is still earlier than birdsong, earlier than smoke. The stars are beginning to fade, one by one, like sparks in a tide pool. You lie on a mat woven from pandanus, stretched across the packed coral floor of your shelter. Your eyes are closed, but you are already awake, not from dreams, not from noise, just from the shape of the air. It smells of sea salt, coconut ash, and damp wood, and that means it is time. The hearth beneath the palm you sit up slowly. The wind moves through the palm thatch above your head, brushing soft shadows over your face. The air is neither warm nor cool, just filled with waiting. You rise, stretch your legs, and step barefoot onto the sand just outside your shelter. The sky is a deep violet, thinning to pearl where it touches the sea. Your hearth is a small circle of blackened stones, arranged by your father's father and never moved. You squat beside it and light a few strips of dry coconut husk. The smoke rises, slowly dot, sweet, familiar. You add one handful of breadfruit bark, then wait. No one else is here. The fire watches with you, the old blade and the drift tree after tea just. Hot water with a few hibiscus leaves, you retrieve the blade. It is made from shell, not sharp like metal, but curved, trustworthy. You slide it into your belt and walk toward the beach, where the drift tree waits. You found it 2 days ago, washed in from a nearby atoll. It's not large, but it speaks. Its bark is thick, its shape twisted. But beneath that, you can see the canoe hiding inside it. You have not yet cut it, only touched, only measured with your eyes. This morning, you greeted aloud. You came a long way, didn't you? The wind rustles the pandanus. Above you, you press your palm to the bark, then begin. Marking with smoke, you do not draw lines. You trace with ash, dipping your finger into a charred coconut shell. You dab tiny dots along the trunk, here for the curve, here for the balance, here where the outrigger arms will meet the hull. Each mark is made in breath. Exhale, dab, pause. Continue. This is not decoration, it is listening. The first carve the shell blade meets wood. It does not bite, it whispers. You work slowly, always angled, always with respect. The sun lifts higher. Sweat begins to bead on your back. You do not wipe it away. The chips of bark fall gently. They smell of salt, wind, and time. You hum an old song your uncle used to sing while weaving sailcloth. It has no words, just rhythm. You find the center, you shape the balance. The tree agrees, the mid-morning. Pause by the time the sun strikes the coconut leaves from directly above. You stop. Not from fatigue, from instinct. This is when the tide shifts, when wind breathes a new direction, when birds grow quieter. You place the blade in a notch in the driftwood and stand. You walk to the sea. You crouch where waves meet your feet. You place one hand in the foam and murmur, "Let this canoe remember you, the sail that isn't made yet back." At the shelter, you open a bundle of pandanus leaves, still green, still stiff. They are not ready to be woven. That will be another day, but today you sort them by length, by color, by voice. You tug gently at the edges. Feel which ones might crack in salt air, which will soften under sun. You don't decide now. You only listen. You spread them on the mat. The wind turns one over. You nod. That one will be the edge. Listening to the reef by late morning. The reef is louder. You can hear the pull of fish, the scrape of crab legs, the crackle of coral dot. You sit beneath the breadfruit tree and listen with your eyes closed. Each sound is a marker. The reef tells you what the stars won't. The water is warm. The tide will be high again by nightfall. The wind tomorrow will come from the east. You carve these truths into memory, not into wood. A final notch before rest. You return to the drift tree one more time before the sun is at its peak. You make one more cut, just at the base, not deep, just enough to say, this is where it begins. You wipe your blade with your cloth. You press your fingers against the bark. The wood is warm now. It holds your print. It understands. The hull and the shell stars asterisk. The sun rests higher now. Not fierce, not blazing, just steady like a hand pressed gently on your shoulder. The shadows beneath the coconut trees lie straight and true. The sea reflects light in small coins that shimmer and vanish with the tide. You press your thumb into the carved driftwood. It holds. You nod. It is time to deepen the hull. The hollowing of silence. You kneel beside the wood. Roll up your sleeves and lift your curved shell blade once more. The edge is smooth, burnished from years of use. It does not glint. It absorbs light. You angle the blade downward and begin carving. Not fast, never fast. Each pull removes a thin sliver, curled and trembling. You do not count them. You do not rush them. The rhythm forms on its own. Pull, shift, breathe, pull. Again, the wood gives a soft creak as it releases what it once held tight. You pause often to brush the inside smooth with a bit of damp cloth. You dip it in seawater, not for polish, but for memory. The wood must remember the ocean, the voice of the lashing zin, the shade of the breadfruit tree. You uncoil rope. It is thick, golden, twisted from coconut fiber called senet. You made it yourself over many days, rolling and tightening strands between your palms until they held like braided breath. You test each length with a tug. No fray, no slack. You will use these to bind the outrigger arms, but not yet. First, you soak them. In a bowl carved from a hollowed nut, you pour warm seawater and a few crushed hibiscus leaves. The rope sits in it, softening, becoming ready. You whisper. To it hold like you hold your child's hand. Reading the shell map, you step back into your shelter and open the mat inside. A map made of sticks and shells rebelibes in a frame of bamboo. Each shell is a memory, each stick a current. Together, they hum the paths between islands you have never seen, but know by heart. You run your fingers across the pattern, a curved stick, swell direction, crossed pieces, atoll interference, tiny shells, island shadows, a single white pebble, your home. You do not read it with your eyes, you read it with your breath. You close your eyes and say the path aloud. Slowly, northwest for 4 moons, east with the second star. Avoid the sleeping reef, stop where birds turn back. You do not memorize it, you remember it, carving for the spirits before the arms are attached. You carve a small groove on the inside of the hull. It will not be seen, but it will be known. This is where you place the symbol, just a shallow etching of a turtle, a wave, and a spiral. Not decoration, a signature, not a view of those who guided you. You press your thumb into the spiral once more, seal it with breath, then move on, lashing the arms. The 2 wooden arms of the Amartha outrigger lie, waiting. You carry them to the main hull and set them gently across the top. Then, you begin the lashings. You do not tie knots, you loop, you wrap, you press. The fiber rope tightens with water, and will tighten more as it dries. That is why you whisper to it now. Hold with love, not with fear. Each loop takes time. Each wrapping requires tension. You hum softly. The wind joins you by the time the sun leans westward. The ama is bound not to the boat, to the story, a coconut. For the ancestors you crack one open. The shell breaks easily under the stone. The water inside is cool and clear. You pour it into a shallow bowl and place it on a mat at the edge of your work site. You do not drink first. You offer it to those who built boats before you, to those who crossed waters. You will never know. You dip a strand of fiber into the water, then press it to the hull. The coconut watches. You nod the stars that come too early by late afternoon. Clouds gather to the east, high ones, long ones. You step back and look up. One star is already visible, Altair, the flying one. It is early. You know what that means. The wind will shift tonight. You will not carve after dusk. You will wait. You pack your tools. You cover the canoe with a thatch mat. You walk to the sea once more and speak one sentence. I see the signs. I will rest. The blessing of drift and flame, asterisk. The wind changes, not loudly, not with storm, but like a quiet turning of the tide inside your chest. You sit beside your canoe, its arms lashed, its body hollowed, its soul marked. The thatch cover flutters slightly. The shadows are longer now. Coconut fronds cast slanted bars of light across your mat. The air smells of salt, bark, and something else, possibility. You rise. It is time to begin the blessing. The oil and the smoke hue start with coconut oil pressed from the nuts you gathered, boiled down and filtered through palm cloth. It rests in a smooth calabash bowl beside bits of red hibiscus and powdered coral. You stir it once with a finger. It glows softly in the slanting light. You carry it to the canoe and kneel. You dip your fingers in and smooth the oil across the inside of the hull. The wood drinks it in slowly. You rub it down the spine, over the curve, across the arms of the outrigger. Each stroke is a prayer with no words. This is not protection. This is acknowledgement. You press the last of the oil into the etching of the turtle near the inner bow. Then, you sit back and light a piece of dried pandanus. It smokes quickly, sweetly. You let it curl round the canoe's nose and tail. You do not wave it. the smoke will find its path. The shell that whispers you opened the small woven pouch tied around your waist. Inside, a cowrie shell, smooth, worn. It belonged to your grandfather, who tied it to his mast and said it kept the wind kind. You press the shell to your lips, then place it into the notch carved near the seat of the canoe. Not as ornament, as listener. You murmur softly when the wind speaks, hear clearly. The canoe's first balance you lift the canoe, not alone your neighbors. Boy joins you. He says nothing. He does not ask. He has helped before. The two of you carry it a short distance to a small tidal pool, nestled just beyond the reef, where the water is still and the coral low. You lower it gently. The hull kisses the water. It floats perfectly. You do not smile, but you feel your chest grow lighter. The water laps gently at the sides. The boy touches the outrigger once, nods, and walks away. You remain. The offering to the sea, you untie a small bundle of bark from your waist. Inside, a bit of hair from your own head. 2 grains of cooked taro. A sliver of wood from the canoe's first chip. And the shell of a small sea snail, found the day you began carving. You tie them together with a strand of coconut fiber and set them afloat in the tidal pool. They drift slowly. You whisper, "Take these, and know we mean well." Twilight across the sea pather. Sky has turned the color of polished stone, purple, gray, pale gold. The reef line glows, just for a moment, then fades. You sit beside the pool. The canoe rests quietly. You do not name it, not yet. Names come later after storms, after sleep, after journeys begun and returned. You watch as a breeze curls over the water, brushing the bow. The boat moves slightly, but stays balanced. You exhale and press your palm once to the warm, wet wood under the canoe's shadow later. After you lift the canoe back to dry land, you lay a mat beneath it and crawl underneath. You lie there flat, arms beside you, face turned toward the sand. It is a tradition, though few remember why. Some say it's to give your body to the boat, just for a moment. Some say it's to listen for the ancestors inside the grain. Some say it's just rest. You stay like that. For a long while, the wind moves the coconut leaves above you. The tide calls, but does not beckon. The canoe breathes, and you do too, the stars that guide, not lead when the first stars appear. You step outside and climb the low rise of coral at the island's spine. You carry a bowl of fresh water. You drink half, pour half on the ground. You look. U.P. Altair. Sirius. Canopus. The same stars that guided your grandfather. The same stars you will teach the neighbors. Boy to follow. Not tonight, but soon. You close your eyes. You remember the map, the wind, the smell of coconut smoke and crushed bark. You feel the line of the boat carved beneath. Your hands. You do not smile. You rest. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place. And now, let's drift into a new corner of forgotten history. Story 5. From ink to embers. A day with a Sogdian caravan accountant on the Silk Road. The ledger before sunrise, the dust comes first, long before the bells of camels stir or the hearth crackles again. The desert wind slips into your tent like an old guest, not loud, not rude, just persistent. It trails a line of fine grit across your blanket, onto the mat beside your head, and into the open pages of yesterday's tally sheet. You are already awake. You were never quite asleep. You lie on your side, facing the east, where the canvas of the tent blushes faintly with the first push of morning. Your fingers twitch, not from restlessness, but from memory. The ink has dried on your thumb. You didn't wash it last night. You rise without speaking, not because there is no one to hear, but because silence is the first number of the day. The tent and the scrolls. The tent is narrow but long, stretched low to keep the wind from dragging it away. 2 camels sleep behind it, their breathing slow and rhythmic. Their burdens bolts of raw silk, pepper wrapped in lambskin, and blue. Tiles from Quaresm rest in neat bundles under cloth tarps. You duck beneath the flap and step outside. The world is pale blue, sky above, dust below, all detail erased in shadow and quiet. You blink once, then return inside to begin. Your first task is not numbers, it is touch. You reach for the wrapped scroll. At your side, tied in soft wool cord, sealed with a pressed bead of hardened ink. You untie it slowly. The parchment curls. The smell of old soot rises to greet you. You unroll it, part way it holds. Yesterday's trades, but it's not for reading yet. First comes the ink, preparing the ink. Soot and vinegar you retrieve the small. Inkstone from your pouch, a flat oval with a depression like a shallow pool. You touch the rim, check for cracks. None. You lift a bit of crushed soot from a tightly sealed horn jar, tap it into the basin, and pour 2 drops of vinegar water over it with the handle of your brush. You stir. The ink is born slowly, dark, quiet, unhurried. As it thickens, the smell rises faintly acrid, oddly comforting. The vinegar preserves. The soot holds memory. You test the tip of your brush against a scrap of mulberry bark paper. It flows like footsteps in the sand, marking the tallies. The scroll waits. You unroll the page across your lap, weighting the corners with small stones smoothed by travel. Line 1, 14 bolts, Samarkand blue, fine weave. Line 2, 3 sacks, cinnamon bark, wet stamped seal. Line 3, 12 jars, dried long pepper, weight unverified. You pause. You cross out unverified. You rewrite, weight pending. You nod, that is better. You dip the brush again, add a fresh line beneath, amended at 3rd moon. No theft, no spoilage, verified. Then you blot it gently. The abacus and the dawn beads outside. The air grows warmer, but the sun is still hiding. You reach into your pouch and pull out the abacus, a wooden frame, carved decades ago, each bead worn smooth. It's not your only one, but it's your favorite. You turn it over once. The beads clack softly. You slide them across, counting silently. 4 jars, minus 1 broken. Add 2 bolts from Bukhara. The totals settle, not just numbers, proof. You record them not in ink, but in your breath, because numbers are only real once they've passed through the mouth. A bowl of salted dates now. Your stomach reminds you. You do not cook yet. You eat simply just a few salted dates, wrapped in thin cloth, softened with steam from your own breath. You chew slowly, savor the salt. Let the sugar wake your tongue. You drink half a cup of warm water, not boiled, not flavored, just warm. Enough to remind your body that it still moves. Enough to prepare your hand for more writing. Whispers. Beneath the ledger, you turn the scroll over. The reverse side is blank. You use it not for business, but for remembrance. In the bottom corner, you mark a single character, an old Sogdian sign. It means provision, luck, or someone left behind. You do not write anything more. You fold the scroll in half, wrap it again, tie it with wool, stop the wind. Shifts outside. The camels snort once. You press the scroll to your chest for a moment, then return it to the pouch. The caravan wakes from beyond the tent. A murmur begins. Someone stokes a fire. A ladle clinks inside a tin pot. Hoofbeats shift as the camels rise, snorting and stretching, bells jingling softly like sheep far away. You step outside. The eastern sky is no longer blue. It is gold and dust and the color of barley before harvest. You shade your eyes. You speak your first words aloud. Balance is still possible. Shadows on ledger skin, asterisk, the sun climbs. Not fiercely, not with arrogance, but as if being lifted gently by an unseen hand above the dunes. Its light washes over the beige tents, the worn caravan crates, and the cracked basin stones that line the outpost where you now sit. The accountant's mat is warm. His hands rest on his knees, and behind him the low breath of a camel sighs, as if exhaling all the weight of morning calculations. Arrival at the trade stop. You do not need a sign to know you've reached the trade station. The shape is always the same low, half-walled enclosure of dried brick and beaten canvas, anchored by barrels of sand to keep it from fleeing in the wind. 2 columns of cedar at the front, a brass bell with no tongue, shelves of sealed ledgers inside. You nod at the gatekeeper. He does not nod back, but he lifts the curtain. You enter. The register of echoes inside is cool, dim, the smell of papyrus and old oil. Your eyes adjust slowly. You see the other scribes seated on reed mats, each behind a low tray. Their movements are minimal brushes, rising and falling like breath. Their mouths stay closed. No one speaks unless summoned. You set your pouch on the mat. Remove the scroll. Unwrap the string. You wait. A servant appears with a bowl of ink and a lamp. You nod once, then begin. The weight table to your right stands, the scalar copper beam with goat horn arms, burnished by decades of touch. You test it with an old coin, balancing it carefully. Then you bring the first parcel, a sack of long pepper, triple wrapped in canvas, sealed in red wax. You cut it open, slowly. The pepper smells warm, dry, and slightly bitter. You scoop it into a brass bowl and place it onto one arm of the scale. You place weights on the other side. 1 solid ingot, 2 half bars, 1 scrap. It balances. You nod and begin writing. Weight verified. 14 can, Sogdian, seal, trade ready. The copy in triplicate from your pouch. You remove a strip of bark fiber paper for the local register, a reed scroll for your caravan's merchant, a pressed leaf sheet for your own ledger. Each carries the same sentence, but in different hands. The first, written in cursive Sogdian. The second, a few rough lines in Arabic for the Western traders. The third, a fine-tipped script in Chinese, simplified for clarity. You do not rush. Each brush stroke hums against the paper. Each form begins with the same breath. You finish each, blot them with sand, then bind them with twine, a bowl of dates, and quiet salt midway through. A boy offers a bowl of dates and salted water. You take one. Chew slowly. The salt grounds you. The sugar lifts you. You do not thank him aloud, but you nod once. He nods back, then disappears behind a curtain. The book of failed trades in a small alcove. Tucked behind the shelves lies the scroll most scribes do not speak of it. It is not for punishments or loss. It is for the truth of non-exchange. You open it, scan the entries. You find your own handwriting. From 2 months ago, 4 bolts returned to sender. Dye-stained, weavers unnamed. Buyer refused. You add nothing new today, but you read the page twice. Failure must be remembered. 2. The quiet of inspection. A visiting merchant asks to see the pepper again. You unwrap the sack, spread it across a woven mat. You offer him a scale, but he refuses instead. He sniffs once, lifts one piece dot, nods tall, places 3 silver rings beside your scroll. You do not touch them. You write, offered, not yet claimed. Rings verified. The exchange may not complete today, but the scroll holds the weight, brushing the sand from the ledger when the sun slips toward the far side of the outpost walls. You notice dust gathering on your pages. You stop. You lift a soft cloth. You brush each corner. Not for cleanliness, but for clarity. You do not allow stray grains to obscure your columns. Every number must breathe. You reseal the ink, wrap the brush, and exhale. The hour of heat ends as shadows stretch long across the ground. You close the scroll. You wrap it again. Tie it with a fresh cord. The scribe beside you nods. You nod back. Neither of you speaks. Your breath matches. The breeze. You rise. The bell above the outpost still has no tongue, but it sways slightly, a soundless chime. Just enough to remind you, the day is not finished, but the work is honored. The lamp and the ledger's ghost asterisk, the sun is not gone yet, but it is leaving. It sinks behind the western rise, where caravans from Persia will arrive in 2 days' time, kicking up slow rivers of dust. You sit on a flat stone near the edge of camp, your scroll pouch resting against your knee, its leather edges soft from use. You don't look at the scroll yet. You watch the shadows grow longer. The ink inside is still warm from the day's work. It will wait. The ember bowl and the breath of oil. The tent is dim when you return. A single oil lamp burns in a niche carved from salt brick. Its light flickers, small and sure. You crouch beside it and place a bowl nearby, cello, unpainted, filled with the ashes of spent parchment and failed drafts. You press your palm once. To the rim. Warm. You add 1 small slip of bark paper, unmarked, then breathe out. The ash accepts it. You feel the balance shift. The last scroll of the day. You sit on your mat, cross-legged, and remove your last scroll. This one is yours, not for trade, not for counting, not for profit. This one holds reflections. You unroll it gently. The fibers sigh with age. Faint ink lines run down the page notes from weeks past, places visited, errors corrected, names of those who shared meals. You write a new entry. 3rd moon, caravan stop beneath tamarisk. Breeze from west. 3 bolts sealed. 1 trade delayed. Ink held steady. Salt unmeasured. Balance quiet. You pause. Dot the page with your finger. Fold it once. That is enough. The ritual of the seal from a small pouch tied around your ankle. You remove your sealstone, a polished sliver of jade carved with your name in the old script. You press it into a bit of moistened soot. Then gently stamp the scroll. The mark is faint. You do not make it darker. You do not need the world to read it, only the future, only the dust. The ledger, prayer before sleep. You recite the prayer. You learned it as a child, but you've changed the words to suit your own heart. You whisper, may the ink remain black. May the trade stay even. May loss be recorded gently. May memory carry weight. You say it once, then fold the cloth over your scroll and press it to your chest. The stars in the soft tally. You step outside one final time. The sky is velvet and silver. No clouds, no wind, just stillness. You look up and count. One for the caravan. Ahead, one for the camel lost last season. One for the coins forgotten. One for your father. One for the word enough. You stop counting. The stars will keep track. Closing the tent back inside. You pull the curtain. You wrap your scroll pouch in the same wool as your blanket. You place the inkstone beneath your head. Soft and familiar. You lie down, the lamp flickers. Once dot, then goes still. The last thing you hear before sleep is not breath. It is the quiet crackle of balance. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place. And now, let's drift into a new corner of forgotten history.